Good space time, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast, a source for educational insights into the Web3 universe and your connection hub to discovering the people that contribute to building the decentralized world. Today, we are joined by Greg Weld from Crypto Lab Tech. We touch on validator communities, people and their qualities, and on crypto being a superior type of money. We talk about stablecoins, the right time to buy, public opinions about crypto, and politicians. Finally, we dive into changing education, green energy, efficiency, and the metaverse. If you enjoy the Citizen Web3 podcast, please share the episode to your favorite social platform and help us spread Web3 values into the universe.
Banks hate crypto, and they won't allow you to open a bank account. A lot of politicians spin it to be a negative thing. And there needs to be a bridge between what you and I know of uses of crypto and what normal people know of uses of money.
Unbank the banked or bank the unbanked?
This is the wrong time to buy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Citizen Web3 podcast. Today, I have Greg with me from Crypto Lab. Greg, hi.
Hi. Happy to be here. Thanks.
How are you?
I'm great.
Yeah, it's a good day, right? I don't know how it is for you, but it's a lovely day for me. The weather is great. I don't know. Of course, the listeners can see it. I don't know if you can see the little ray of light coming in. My hope, calling outside. How's the weather about in your place? It's all good, I hope.
Yeah. I'm based out of San Diego, so it's usually awesome here. But we have had way more rain this year than in a long time. It's crazy.
Lovely. I have. I don't think I've had guests from San Diego before, but I've certainly know people living in San Diego. I know at least one person lives there, and he always talks very lovely about the weather. So yeah. So now that this lovely weather conversation is done, I would love to ask you to introduce yourself for myself and for the audience. Tell us everything you would like people to know about you. How did you get to Web3 and what you're currently working on maybe as well?
Cool. I live in San Diego. I got into crypto around 2011. My first experience with crypto was Bitcoin, and I've been exploring the cosmos since 2019-ish, I think. And I had this idea that I had a decent amount of coins staked and that maybe I should just run my own validator. So my first one that I spun up was on Akash. And since then, I've been adding new validators as I get the chance. And I participate in a bunch of communities. I love the Passage idea where they have the metaverse as a service, or Decenter, the web browser, or DVPN. So I'm in 100 different Discords, and I just love spending time with crypto. Outside of running a validator, I do consulting to teach people how to get into crypto, how to get stuff onto an exchange, and then with companies to how they can use blockchain.
So interesting. You basically had how would I call it, the self-prophecy experience, right? It's like sometimes you get people starting working in crypto, and then slowly they're like, okay, I'll start to just to do, I don't know, either write something or code something, and then slowly they're like, but this is interesting. So if I'm gonna get my salary in crypto, how? And then the rabbit hole opens up for you. The rabbit hole was different, right? But I like that rabbit hole. Let's talk more about it. But what I mean, just having your own tokens. A lot of people have their own tokens, but they don't go to validate. Why did you decide to do that?
So the validator community in Cosmos is amazing. Everybody's so friendly and welcoming. I've had people reach out to me and help them out. And any time that I message somebody, they're more than welcome to answer the questions. And so it wasn't difficult. It was, it just kind of was natural. I'd start a conversation and people would be helpful. So that's been the best thing about the Cosmos ecosystem that I've worked with. Not to down other ecosystems, but I have had some less than pleasant experiences with either rugs or just grumpy people on like Solana or Ethereum. But they just, I don't know what it is about the Cosmos, but people are super friendly.
I definitely get some hang of what you say. We are chain agnostic. We are a validator, of course, a bare metal validator ourselves, but we are chain agnostic. But I definitely can say that Cosmos is our validator home, even though I've started validating before Cosmos existed on depots. But my first experiments, at least, in 2015, I believe, were 15/16 with but not the point. The point is that I can definitely feel what you're talking about it. And for me, even though we will, it doesn't matter how as a validator we will evolve in the future, I will probably never say never, just as never say always. I will consider Cosmos to be like our home, have that little special place where we always kind of feel responsible for allowing us to have the public good projects, just for example, as this podcast or everything else that we do. And in my opinion, it thanks to Cosmos. So I can definitely relate to what you say there. What's the goal though? I mean, you say kind of, okay, grumpiness, happy people. I like that. But do you have like a personal goal because you mentioned that you educate people on you consult, people on how to use crypto. So I'm guessing there is, again, there is something more dear to that, and I would love to hear that. I know I'm digging at it. I know I'm sorry, but
no, it's good. I think that like crypto is a superior form of money over fiat currency, and there's always the possibility that fiat can evolve to what crypto is, a global currency that can be sent around the world in seconds at very low cost. But currently, it is not. And even something as simple as opening a bank account, like I haven't been able to find a place to open a bank account as crypto lab tech because crypto is in the name of my company and banks hate crypto and they won't allow you to open a bank account. And so I think that between the people who are unbanked, who can't get bank accounts at all or don't have a home, or even people who have a bunch of money that they need to deal with overseas transactions, or so many different use cases, there's always a use case for people to use crypto over other systems.
I have a blitz question for you, a random blitz question for you. Unbank the banked or bank the unbanked?
I think that if you mean by unbank the banked, then move everybody that's in banks to self-custody 100%. Because
thank you.
I mean, there's so many benefits. When you take out the middleman, you then pass all those benefits on to the end users. I mean, the whole idea of DeFi, having smart contracts just pass on the earnings from like liquidity pools or whatever, that there's no entity in the middle sucking all the money out of the system. People get so excited when they see like, oh, this savings account has 5%, but like 5% is nothing. And when the rate of inflation is currently riding, around 8%, then if you have money in a savings account, you're just losing money every year.
And that is us not even getting into the conversation about the methods of calculating real inflation, right? And printing and all of that. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's funny you mentioned it. I've said it I think several times on the show previously, but I can't get tired of saying this. That over the last 10 years of my crypto story, the more the longer I spend time in it, the more I realize that if I want to, let's say in brackets, peel somebody, which is usually happens naturally for people, but the more I want to do it, the less I will mention the word crypto and just talk about the banking system and the fucking realities that people have to face. And then people are like, but what do I do then? And then, hey, there we go. Fine. But let's talk about 2011 for a second, Greg. 2011 was, man, I got in a little bit after you, but 2011, loco, crazy. To be able to understand back then, in my opinion, to see what you saw, yeah, it's mind-blowing for me. I would love to hear a little bit of your story from that, if it's possible at all.
So back then, my friend Chris emailed me, and he said, hey, there's this new thing. It's like digital money, and there's low cost to transfer it. It's not very expensive. You'll be able to transfer money all over the world. And like that idea really interested me. So I looked into how to get into it. And like the largest exchange was Mt. Gox, which, now is a bad word. But the nightmare it was to get money from your bank account onto a crypto exchange was crazy. But I managed to get some money on there. And I think the first Bitcoin I bought was at like $11 or something. So it was really interesting to think back on that. It's such a weird feeling to be like, I bought Bitcoin at like $11. I don't have that Bitcoin anymore. Just like the pizza guy, that bought a pizza with a whole bunch of Bitcoin. But I have done a lot with the crypto that I've had and traded, and it's now invested in other cryptos, although I still have some Bitcoin. But yeah, that was my experience with starting with crypto. It felt like some shady thing because it was so difficult to get into. And I think that a lot of people who aren't in crypto still feel like it's something crazy like that. They have this idea that they're going to have to go through a crazy process and that it's going to be very complex to use, but it's really not. As you go through the KYC, it's now almost instantly confirmed in most cases, and then you can just send money anywhere. And I think that if more people could see all the benefits, and I think that the fact that crypto is so volatile is a huge benefit. Many people will not get into crypto just out of the fear of the volatility. And that I get, but they don't even see that there's stable coins and there's coins that are useful for other things. And so the fact that there's volatility gets the word out. So I always have more people hit me up near the top of the bull market and asking like, how do I get into crypto? And I'll tell them like, put away some money right now. And when we get back to the bear market, then I'll let you know. But this is the wrong time to buy.
It's a never-ending, I think, not mission. Mission is the wrong word here, but it's a never-ending thinking process of what is the correct answer when people ask me the same questions. I don't know what to answer, but I know that we were telling the story of Bitcoin at double figures. I remember BTCE, and there was such an exchange. It was a very popular Russian-based. Russian is a loud word, and even if I'm not mistaken, some years ago, the guy got arrested somewhere in Greece by the CIA or whatever for money laundering. I don't know whatever happened to him. Probably we'll never know, unfortunately. But I just remember like one time after like in 2000, I found the password to it some years. Like already in 2019, I think. So it was like years and years after I first started using it. And I just looked at the history. And of course, today it's not on as far as I know, but it was crazy. The amount of, it was Litecoins. I was never into that heavy into Bitcoin back then, but it was more into Litecoin. And it was just the numbers of those Litecoins looking. I was like, wow, we were smoking a lot on Silk Road or whatever it was. It's funny. But do you feel that there is a difference between today's, you said yourself that people are still afraid of going through that process, but do you feel that there has been a change in moods or in acceptance of the general public towards crypto and towards our space since
I think
that time?
I mean, it's been socialized way more, and it's gotten a more publicity. Like, sadly, a lot of politicians spin it to be a negative thing. So I don't know. Like, I think that it gets put up as like a money laundering vehicle really often, but anybody who's in crypto knows that without things like Tornado Cash, that like all crypto transactions are visible on the blockchain and trackable. And so you'd have a whole lot easier time doing nefarious things with actual fiat currency, just like it has been for ages, like sending truckloads of like physical bills, because all of your crypto is trackable on the blockchain. It's difficult to hide that.
It does, right? But do you feel like as if people, regardless like of all the shadiness, right? Like not that. Do you feel as at crypto it's okay? Let me try a different angle here. I like to talk with guests about it because it's something that I don't know. It gives me a better, and the listeners and myself, I think, a better perspective of the whole industry. And what I like to ask is something. The following question: do you think that what you do today, that what you have been doing for the past 10 years, it's a bit of a devil's advocate question, right? Has influence on our world? Does it change the things that, we talk about blockchain and crypto, the Web3 spaces, sometimes as even being a little bit religious, I mean, we're not even shy of giving it a little bit of prophecies to, we can cure blah, blah, blah. Bitcoin can do that. Ethereum can do that. Cosmos will be able to do that. IBC will be able to do that. And maybe they will, maybe they won't, we don't know. But do you feel personally, does Greg feel it, that over the last your 10-year journey in crypto and your validation journey over the last few years, has it changed anything around you? Has it changed something in the world around for you personally, at least?
I mean, definitely for me, the world has changed. I mean, I run validators and I have a bunch of server equipment. And so like for me personally, yes. But I've also brought a lot of people into crypto that they have been able to start using it, take payments for their businesses, be able to integrate different parts of crypto into their business, like NFTs or just being able to accept crypto. But along those lines, I think that it has so much further to go. I mean, it's something as simple as like you look at the adoption of PayPal, where it took something as simple as them putting code on their site so that businesses could just grab the code and put it on their site, and it just says, pay with PayPal when you go to checkout. Why doesn't that exist for anything in crypto, where Kepler, Leap, MetaMask, Phantom, all these wallets could just put up a piece of code and say, this is freely usable for people to put on their site. And when you go to checkout, it just has a button for connect wallet and you can just use your coins. And that's the difficulty for crypto, is that you can't get any adoption if it's impossible to use. I mean, if I can get crypto into the hands of somebody, that's one step, but them being able to do anything is a whole other. And there needs to be a bridge between what you and I know of uses of crypto and what normal people know of uses of money, because we think of crypto as digital money and they think of it as some imaginary thing that can't be used in the real world.
What about, since we are on this topic, what about what role in that extent and adoption extent, of course, I'm talking about adoption here, or not even adoption, but mass usage, because mass adoption, in my opinion, happened with NFTs during the last cycle. Every dog knows the word Bitcoin. Doesn't matter if they believe in it or, like you say, they think it's a shady digital tool. Everybody knows what it is, pretty much. Like really, like they don't know what it is exactly, but they heard the word. So the adoption, maybe for me, maybe it kind of happened, not the usage, but there is no such thing as mass usage. People are afraid. And regardless of whether you're going to put the word usage there or adoption, regardless of what in your vocabulary translates to the correct word here, do you think, or what role rather do you think that such end user vendors such as like explorers, wallets that you mentioned right now, because for me, they play a big role in it. And for me, a lot of the ways that they portray information sometimes, and I don't want to like now shoot it to anybody, a lot of them were our guests over the last 4 years, all over the ecosystem, and they are great developers, but I speak with them about it, and I want to know your opinion, because for me, this is where the real adoption happens, because everybody needs a wallet or an explorer. Sooner or later, they have to do it if they're going to be using crypto. And the way they sometimes portray information, whether it's the inability to delegate to a validator outside the top set, or or just calling the validator inactive when in fact he's not inactive, or whatever, anything like that, kind of pushes, in my opinion, that adoption stage a little bit further. But okay, I didn't want to express my opinion. I wanted to ask yours. I'm sorry, it's a pain point. So what's, in your opinion, the role in that adoption that you're talking about, that wallets and explorers and other end user tools play in that adoption spectrum?
I mean, I think that the interfaces that people have to the crypto world are going to be the driver of adoption. Without a good UI, there's no reason for anybody to attempt to use it if it's too difficult. So whether it's using a wallet to connect to something, or an interface for a DeFi platform, it's all got to be easy for the user to manage. So Passage has been one of the projects that I work with that's been really strongly looking at that. I'm one of the alpha testers, and we get in there, and Lex will ask us to do stuff. We'll test things out, move around, and then we'll give them feedback. Like, what do you think? What are the problems? And I think that maybe there's just not enough channels, or not the correct channels for users to give feedback or even vote on what they think is most important, because like programmers and UI developers have very different ideas. If you had like a ticketing system and it was designed by engineers that code, they're going to design something wildly different. And they'll just say like, but it's so functional. It's got everything that you need. And users will be like, it may do all the things that I need, but I can't figure out how to do any of that stuff. And that's the problem, is that if people are going to adopt crypto, it's got to be simple. It's got to be intuitive, that they can just open it up and just know how to use it. And software has had that problem since software existed. We have things like backup software that I've used before that you need to take a class to be able to use, or even some banking software. You need something that users can open up and just know. They see it and they're like, this is obvious. I know how to do this.
It's an interesting point. Devil's advocate response here. But crypto is new. How would they know how to do this? Or would you just try to replicate their usual behavior on other apps to here? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying to replicate what like the fiat world has necessarily, but talk to users and say, what do you think is missing here? Or what do you find confusing? Or what are features that you would like this to have that you don't currently see? All the questions,
I totally understand. And for example, the tool we are building now, a validator staker tool that we are building now, is the end goal of it is to be user interactive. And in my opinion, crypto gives a perfect tool to allow any developer to create. The reason is because it has user incentives, right? It's like instant on the second user incentive, which solves the problem Web2 had, right? And it's interesting that a lot of those, until today, a lot of the tools that we see, in Web3 have either email logins, and okay, I can understand why, and analytics and all that, I can get it. But instead of that, allow the user to log in with your Web3 wallet, interact with your platform, receive some type of, NFT, reward, whatever. And that would already give you that feedback that the Web2 world takes a year to give you, whereas right here you will. I totally agree with what you say. I'm just waiting for it to happen.
So on what the couple things that you just mentioned, those are excellent points. So one, we've seen in all kinds of software immense potential in gamified learning. So say we'll take the navigation app Waze. You earn points by reporting accidents, traffic, police officers, whatever, and people get into that, and then they can get different avatars, things like that. But education is going to be such an important thing, like you mentioned with staking interfaces. How do you get people to stake outside the top 10? Because intuitively, people go to the staking platform and they say, well, I want to stake my coins with the most safe, reliable validators. And, well, these are the top 10, so they must be the best 10 out of the 100. And there needs to be some level of simple, straightforward, quick education to say, these top 10, they're probably totally awesome. They're amazing. But the other 90 of them are also excellent. And look at the different factors of whether they vote on governance things in the same way that you do, or their uptime, all the factors that make validators great, and give the smallest bit of education and give them some type of incentive to learn that so that we can help decentralize the whole crypto ecosystem.
Absolutely. And just to finish off the topic, to say, like, I think, when I was trying to ask you about what's your opinion on what role do vendors play in it, and you just basically said it. Instead of showing the top 100 by 1 to 10 by voting power, why not show it randomly? Why not show it backwards? Why not show it, I don't know, anything but just top 10 just by voting power, and that's it. You get a different set already, and already people will not look at it like that, because today you really, when you go on a lot of those interfaces, you really cannot even delegate outside of the active set, and it's bad, because it's not like the validators outside the active set are bad. They just cannot get into it because they don't have the voting power to get, but they're still signing blocks, and in fact they might be better working and more functioning than the validators in the top, and you want, so yeah, go on, please, Greg, go on.
So I don't know if the solution is a random order. I mean, you have things
just
like
vote, not
right, like restake. If you go there, they're not in the order that of the top 10. Like, they say what their order is, but towards the top of the list, obviously, are people that have enabled restake, and then you have different percentages. It's just that for somebody that's new to crypto, it's extremely overwhelming. I've taught a ton of people, and even the simple thing of staking, because they'll say, okay, I've bought these coins. Now, is there something that I can do with them to make some money? And, I give them the different levels of risk. And the lowest level, just stake your coins. And they say, okay, I went to the staking interface and I don't understand what I'm looking at. And they're numbered in rank, but there's all these other factors that I don't know what they mean. I don't know what exactly the uptime means, or what all these votes mean, or the commission that they receive. Like, so many people have misunderstandings even about commission. They see, commission's 10%, and don't understand that that's 10% out of your rewards, not 10% of the whole reward. So it's a tiny fraction. And that leads to further problems. Like, you are probably aware, validators don't make much. And if validators doing something like relaying, they make even less. And so I think that education is definitely the key to adoption and decentralization and so much in crypto. People just need to be educated. The problem is finding some way that's digestible and friendly for everybody.
Absolutely. On that, like, note or subject, what is your personal, you said you have tokens, and your tokens were enough maybe on some chains, or maybe on all of them, that you decided to validate to put you into the active set. Yet the question is more abstract, I guess, is more general. Part of it, what was your journey like, of course, to get to the active set, but more of a general question, because sometimes it feels today, and again, I'm going to be devil's advocate as I'm always am, and I can't get tired of saying that, but sometimes I have to I want to know opinions, and sometimes, asking questions directly doesn't allow you to get the opinion. But anyway, sometimes we see, those sets, and you look at the top 10, and the top 10 have been there for 5 years. And you're like, sometimes they stop I'm not saying it's like that, but, let's say chain A, and, the top 10 validators on chain A have been there for 5 years. Nobody can get into the top 10. How did you manage to do it? How did you, out of nowhere, come to the stage? Yeah, you had your own stake. It helped. But what's your kind of like game plan here? What if you didn't have that?
So if you don't have that, then you need to communicate with people and be part of communities. And beyond my own self-stake, that's what I've had to do. I've participated in the Passage community or Decenter community or any chains that I validate for. I'm in the Discord. I'm answering questions. I'm learning about the projects and being involved. I mean, look at the big validators. Okay, so like I first got into Secret back when I heard about the Shade airdrop happening, and they said it in advance. There was like 3 different chains that if you had coins staked on, that you could get an airdrop. And so I could not figure out how to get coins over to Secret. At the time, IBC was not enabled. And so I reached out to Lavender 5 nodes. I think it was Schultze, answered all my questions and helped me out. Like, that dude is everywhere, and always answering questions, super helpful. And that's the way a lot of validators are. And as I said, I think that makes it very friendly for the community and just easy to be in. But in order for you to get more delegators, you need to be helping people. So that's, yeah.
What about, this is retail, of course. You're talking about retail. What about foundations? How does anybody that starts a validator, in your opinion, what would be your advice to them to work just with retail, like you said, like you just said now, or to actually go and try to explore foundation delegations, or maybe, I don't know, how do they look for whales, for example? Because usually whales aren't in the chats asking, how do I don't know, stake my coins, usually, or at least so the validators think, so that whales aren't in the chats.
I mean, I think it's still being involved in the community. I have had like whales on Decenter delegate to me because I was in community calls. It's community involvement, 100%. And if whales don't delegate to you, then like there's nothing you're going to be able to do to convince them. But whether you're providing RPC nodes or answering questions or running a relayer, like having yourself known in communities is going to be, in my opinion, the best organic way to get followers to delegate to you. I mean, some people on Twitter, I mean, you look at Crypto Cedo, he's got Stake Cedo, and he's got a massive presence, but he's super helpful. He's always producing great content and, again, educating people. So, in my opinion, education
Absolutely.
is the best route.
Absolutely. What about, chain selection, or so to speak, how do you approach it? How do you currently decide? Because you mentioned Akash, you mentioned DVPN, you mentioned mainly Cosmos chains. I don't know if you validate anything outside of Cosmos currently. What's your process here personally? How does Crypto Lab or Greg decide to, or where is it going? Is there like an end goal of, I don't know, we want to validate all the chains on Cosmos, or we want to validate all DVPNs or whatever? Is there such a goal, or how does the selection work?
I look at every project really closely and see like how much value I think it has, whether I think it's going to succeed, whether it's adding positivity to crypto. So like there's a lot of chains that I don't think I'd ever find interest in validating because I just don't think that they're going to go anywhere, and I don't want to name any of those chains, but but I think that there's some that I mean, if I had like all the money in the world and I wanted to go like 100% all in on crypto, there's an economy of scale running validators that the more that you run, the more you can virtualize it and just make more money off of it. But with the small amount that I have to be choosy about what chains I validate for. So like one of them that I'm looking at currently is Nolus. I think it's a phenomenal product with a very intuitive interface and a great use case. And so that's something I haven't ventured into validating outside of the Cosmos ecosystem, but it's something I consider. It's just that a lot of stuff outside Cosmos is like monolithic chains, not app chains, and that's why I find the Cosmos ecosystem interesting, because like every app has its own chain, and so you can explore how valuable that chain's functionality is. Not, I mean, like Solana has a million things that it does, and so it's probably going to succeed. I think that's a pretty safe chain to validate on, but yeah, but it's just something I haven't broken into.
Would be I'm always curious to see validators become, more and more like broad in the infrastructure of Web3, because today's, Web3 infrastructure, it's sometimes hard to call it Web3, especially when we get into API calls and data rendering and everything else. About infrastructure, are you currently using cloud infrastructure, bare metal mixtures, anything you can talk about here?
Yeah, it's all bare metal. So I try to run as much of it as possible off of solar. I have a bunch of solar panels. I have Tesla Powerwalls. I have some NetApp storage equipment. I run on Dell servers and switches. I run Starlink internet and currently Spectrum cable internet, so that I have redundant connections. So yeah, it's all bare metal, and that's been stuff that I had the knowledge to use already from like previous work, and so that part is difficult for people to break into. And I've had like conversations with other validators who are trying to get started of like, well, what do I use for a server to get started? And starting bare metal can be difficult, like especially if you don't know Linux or if you don't have the hardware or bandwidth. So like cloud is a great place to start, but at the same time, you need a pretty fast system, and that can be expensive in the cloud. So, and even for me, being in California, power is very expensive. So if I didn't have solar to power it, it'd be unaffordable.
Do you use 610, 630s, the servers, the Dells?
Oh, they're R640s.
640s, interesting. Usually like 630, 610s are the... Why 640s? What's the capabilities there that attract you to 640s? I got a good deal. I like it. I like a good deal. Sorry, I didn't hear the answer. I love that. It's a great answer.
Small form factor, like they're rack mount, but they're 1U, 2U, I can't remember, but they're very small. So they've got the dual power supplies. They've got I don't have any hard drives in mine, so they're just running off of network storage, but really fast network storage.
That's an interesting solution, by the way, because disks are one of the biggest pain points of bare metal validators. Well, electricity, of course, monitoring and disks. But, disks is something that I've had guests who are like, sing praises, and then guests who are like, oh my God, disks, So, and now you're the first bare metal validator that says I run everything of network storage. How's that experience been? Why did you decide to go that way?
So the network storage has to be something very fast. So I use NetApp network storage. So it's got an NVRAM cache that confirms writes before it writes to disk that are battery backed. So if you had a power outage, no data is lost. And it's writing to a RAID 6 array across really fast SSDs. So you get faster than SSD performance because you're writing to basically NVMe that's dumping after 2 SSDs. So, and the network latency isn't an issue because I'm running multiple 10 gig links that only go like 1 foot. So.
What about you mentioned you have currently Starlink. I also have, by the way, with my Starlink and of course normal broadband. I remember talking to Greg, I think Greg, sorry, to Jacob. Sorry, my apologies, Greg. I remember talking to Jacob. I'm looking at your name and I'm saying Greg. I remember talking to Jacob, and Jacob, one of the few people that likes to use house grade rather than industrial grade equipment for the servers. But he's not the only one. But what stood out with me was his way of connecting internet, because there was no option for him for Starlink. And I remember he was saying that he has like 4 or 5 different mobile routers that switch on, in case one. I mean, I'm guessing in California, or I'm assuming in California that problem doesn't exist when you have your broadband and a Starlink. This is my solution as well. How has your experience been with that?
Starlink is not amazing here.
Yes, it's not. It's here as
maybe getting better, but
ping is terrible.
Yeah. So it's a great backup connection. That's the thing, is that I have to have the internet up at all times. So 2 weeks ago, my Spectrum connection died because my cable modem just completely quit. But the validators just kept running because I had another connection. And that's the problem with like the area that I'm in, is that there aren't other options for a connection unless it's very slow. And I want to stay up and running, but I don't want to be crawling along. So Starlink performance goes up and down. It can be pretty solid, and at times I think it's the same speed as dial-up, but it's active, and most of the time it's decent. So as a backup connection, it's fantastic, especially because, like I've said, I run off solar and off of power walls. And so if there was a major brownout or power outage in California, which we've had in the past, since I'm running Starlink, I would keep running. Even with no power, where I'm at is going to be powered. So
I definitely, I'm definitely would love to reach a point where in 5 years time or this is my goal, at least as a validator, to have complete decentralized infrastructure for my validators. When I say that, I mean not just having, I don't know, a mega or whatever, 2 megawatts of production of electricity, but also being able internet, whatever. But so, and you mentioned that, okay, I have also some experiments. For example, my Starlink is actually running off solar, but this is an experiment. It's not actually currently, it's not connected to any nodes. In fact, the last power outage we had on the island, I had an issue with the setup that I did, and good that it wasn't connected to any nodes, that it was just an experiment. But what is your experience? Because a lot of people, when they hear solar, first of all, of course, they start to calculate the battery costs, then the work costs, then they're like everything else not efficient, not good. What would you say to them? Would you say that, hey guys, nothing to be scared of, just know what you're doing and keep on? I mean, yeah, go on. What would you say to this statement?
I mean, so any installation that you're going to do with solar, you're going to pay it back off of whatever you're doing with it. So obviously there's a huge upfront cost. It's very expensive for not just solar panels, but batteries of some kind. But if you were doing anything in that location at all, whether it was crypto stuff or just a house, you're going to pay back that amount of money within 5 to 10 years. And then it's just extra money. So to anybody that would be thinking about solar, I would say it's worth it. If you can afford the upfront cost, and that's part of the problem at this point, is that it's a rich people thing. Like, not everybody can afford to install solar, but like people who are on the edge of, I don't know if I can afford it, I would say in the end, if you're going to stay where you are, whether it's your house or whether it's your business, that it's going to pay itself off. at some point, and then it's just extra money.
Absolutely. I totally agree. There is, of course, other options. Of course, I will back you up on to say that this is sometimes rich people stuff. The other options like wind energy. But thing is, I was surprised, walking into Leroy Merlin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Pardon my pronunciation. Just any big maintenance shop that sells a lot of stuff. I was surprised to see all those stuff suddenly, because I wasn't into those things over the years before that, and I had like a 5 or 6 year gap there, and then I went and I was like, whoa, they have a Starlink here, they have like a wind like generator. What's on earth is going on? It's not cheap at all. But it's fascinating to see that progress of the last 10 years, to being able by a 3D printer, a Starlink, and a wind turbine in your kind of, like 5 minutes away driving from home to a shop. It's fascinating to me. It really is yeah.
I think eventually it won't be a rich people thing. That
Yes.
As the adoption gets greater, it's going to
Yes.
cut down manufacturing costs. It's going to cut down transportation costs and better technologies. Recycling a windmill blade at this point is near impossible, but they already have many solutions in the pipe where some are being used for other things, or they're starting to make them out of wood, or a million different things. And the same thing with solar panels. They've already got places that have spun up that can correctly delaminate the layers. But initially, solar panel recycling was a nightmare. EV battery recycling, a nightmare. But as it's like getting wider adoption, and there's just more there, so that if you were like an EV battery recycling company, you would be waiting for cars to die and then be able to recycle them. But if it spreads to be like 50% of the US is using them, then you have a steady flow and you can make a more efficient process. It just becomes more profitable to do it. And so I think that right now we're in that in-between learning and building stage, but that eventually all of those energy efficient things will be affordable for every person. So.
I think like a great example of the learning curve from what you mentioned, and again, this might be my personal learning curve because I'm not that familiar with it, at least until a certain point, like half a year ago. So, but the simple fact I didn't know, for example, until recently, that a solar panel is able to generate, if you have the right surface underneath it, from both sides. Like yeah, not every solar panel, but I wasn't aware of those things. And this learning curve of just like finding out, or for example, again, today, water energy to produce. I live on an island, and, our island produces a very small amount of green energy, but a lot of my friends who understand better me, who work in ecology, I have some friends. I have some friends was a good sentence, but I have some friends working in the ecological sector of the island, and they always talk about the silliness of not being able, while we live on an island, to use the water motion that we have to produce green energy, because that is cheaper, better, more efficient. Yeah, technology is not that new. It's still, but why not? And nobody even looks at it. Nobody even cares and thinks about it. What the water is all around us, it's like,
yeah.
Man.
Wave technology is behind, but like you said, it has massive potential. Like the biggest problem you have with wave energy is corrosion, because it's salt water.
Yes.
But
Yes.
if they can figure out a solution to the corrosion part, like water is extremely powerful, and just that motion of the waves, which naturally happens from the wind, can generate so much power. And you can stack energy sources on top of each other, where you can have wave generation anchored to the bottom of the ocean and then have windmills standing on top of it and having the same power feeds going to the land. So it could be immensely more efficient than other sources of power.
I remember watching a docu series or a documentary about technologies that we as humanity have lost access to or regained access to, and one of the most fascinating one, which is as far as I know, again, this is I sell for what I buy here kind of sentence before I say it, because it's a bit, but okay. What fascinated me was they were shown, and I heard that it's a used thing now, that they were looking at the buildings. What makes me think about it is what you say about the cost, the wave technology, and the erosion. Anyways, and they were looking at the Roman and the Greek buildings around Europe and saying, that's strange, those buildings should be, the wave, the wind, sorry, with the sea, salt water should have by now destroyed the cement, but it doesn't. So they decided to see what the fuck is happening. Why is it not being destroyed? Because we believe for the last few hundred years that it should not be like that. So when they analyzed that cement, they realized that it has not just added salt water to it, it's using different like lava, specific lava stone rock, which was broken. Anyways, the point is that wind with the salt water in it to that type of cement actually strengthen it. And that's the reason why they've been standing there for 2,000 years, and not just untouched, but they look like they're sometimes looking much better than the houses we built 5 years ago. So maybe that erosion thing, which we currently are stuck with, hopefully we will manage to find the solution to that as well. Yeah. I have another kind of like quick question for you, and then to jump into the blitz. To summarize what we kind of spoke about, because we spoke a lot about education and a lot about technology. What's, in your opinion, the role of a validator today? And the second part of that question, what would you do, or what would you change in education to users about validators today?
So, the role of a validator, obviously, to validate the chain, but also to participate in community with whatever chains that they validate. And I think I've seen that with almost all the validators. If they're validating for a chain, then they're part of the community. They're on the Discord. They answer questions on Twitter, whatnot. And so I think that that's most of the way already there. What would I change about education? There's so much. I think that it would be amazing if somebody spun up an incentivized education platform on crypto to teach people about crypto. Like, we have little things like Coinbase has Coinbase Earn, and CoinGecko has things that they do occasionally that are incentivized by the chains that are launching them. But if there was some mechanism that could be built that rewarded people with either crypto or NFTs or something that they could go through and learn stuff, then that would be awesome. I think that could teach a lot of people, and the incentive would be there to onboard so many people to crypto, because most people see it and know that it's there, but they don't see a reason to get into it. And so the incentive for education would be a way to get them there. And then once they learned about it, they would say, well, there's so many reasons to use crypto over the regular banking system. And I think that can drive adoption.
Absolutely. Okay, to jump from that, it's a good place, I think, to jump into the blitz. You will see with the questions, it makes sense. But the first one is going to be a bit strange. Well, they're all a bit strange, but the first one is definitely strange. Give me one movie or one book or one a song that has been with you for a substantial part of your life.
Goonies. I love the movie Goonies. I think that like that is what I always want to be inside, is like that interested in exploring young kid.
I love it. No, I love it. This is a very original answer. I loved it. What about give me one type of technological direction, such as blockchain, for example, or machine learning, or I don't know, any other one that you find very fascinating, apart from blockchain, of course.
That I find fascinating.
Green energy?
I mean, I love green energy. I think that it's.
There we go.
I think
Sorry,
that
I stole it, but it's
no,
because
yeah,
of
yeah,
your answer. It was because of
you're,
your answers. I'm sorry about it, Greg.
you're leading the witness. So I think maybe green energy, but I think that home efficiency. Sounds so like nerdy and boring, but like
No, I love it.
I think that it's to me fascinating the materials for insulation, the idea of like insulating the yeah like I think so many people don't really think about that when building a house, and so it's fascinating to me to see the savings of uh, insulating the air-conditioned envelope on a house, so that like your attic being insulated. Nobody does that, but it's a little bit more expensive and then so much more beneficial to your AC system. Like nobody thinks about I'm blowing cold air through 120 degree space, something like that. That's a way long answer, but
It's not. It's not. It's not. I could have a whole podcast on house efficiency because I'm fascinated with the topic. Seriously, I think the way we design houses in general, the rooms, is so outdated. It's worse than the educational system. It's got nothing to do with reality today. For example, the way the size of the rooms, even the size. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But anyways, we could do a whole. Would love to one day, definitely. Third question. Give me, of course, please don't say Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cosmos. You can if you want, but give me one project from the crypto space, preferably something that people not necessarily heard of, that you find fascinating.
can it be for a chain that I validate for?
You can be whatever you want. It can be also Bitcoin if you would like to choose that answer, but it's up to you.
I find the use cases that Passage has absolutely amazing. Like an environment where you can spin up a metaverse in 60 seconds has so many uses. I mean, people think of it as, oh, it's just a metaverse, but it could be used for things like education, like online education. You could have a virtual classroom. You could have a competitor to Ticketmaster where all of the tickets are NFTs and you would be able to click on a location and see the view of the stage in a virtual world before you buy the tickets. There's just a million use cases. There's a million things you could do being able to spin up metaverses on demand. And the fact that it runs on Akash, the decentralized cloud, I think is just amazing. You think of like now, if you buy a game, you have to download that game and you have to have a powerful GPU. But if everything is rendered in the cloud and streamed to you, it opens up the access for so many more people that I can play things on my phone or on like a Chromebook, and I don't have to have a crazy GPU. So I think that the Passage has like a lot of use cases that you could talk about all day that people aren't thinking of yet.
I was just talking literally before our recording with a friend about AI and about the costs of the GPUs needed to render at home Grok, which was open sourced recently. And we're talking 5 of those cards, and I think each one of them has a cost of roughly $30,000. So it's industrial grade devices, of course, but yeah, not easy.
I
Okay.
think.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I think Greg Asuri was just posting yesterday about how he got Grok up and running on Akash on like 8 or 10 H100s or something. Like that's crazy to me, you know.
Nice. Okay, the last 2 are going to be a bit weird, but I promise the last 2. Even weirder than those. So the first one, give me one motivational thing that keeps Greg, improving the efficiency of his house, running validator nodes, I don't know, exploring green energy and being part of the community, waking out of bed, something motivational.
The thing that motivates me is helping other people, not just in crypto, but like altogether. It's driven me my whole life. It's gotten me from the East Coast in Massachusetts to Utah to California. I think that it betters me and it betters other people. And I think that if everybody was more open-minded to just help other people, that in little steps we could just make the whole world a lot better place. It's really maybe a naive outlook. I don't know, but I think it does. It makes an impact.
Connects a lot with me personally. I honestly think that the bottom line is really about, just a little bit better. Last one. Give me a character or a real person. They can be imaginary. They can be a friend. They can be a family. They can be a cartoon character. Can be a writer. Can be a blockchain developer. Someone, somewhat, something that has had some kind of inspiration on Greg throughout all his life. Again, not a guru, not an idol, because I don't like to believe in those personally, but something or somebody or a character or a personage that has had an inspiration on you personally throughout all your life, or part of your life, or today even maybe.
I mean, today, the most inspirational person in my life is my wife. She is the most positive person I have ever met.
I always love it when people finish on that note and like go to their family members. And because like having idols is one thing, but when a family member, somebody that inspires you, or your lover or wife or whatever, I think it changes the perspective on the way we kind of interact with the world. Greg, I want to. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
I mean, I would be a completely different person without the positivity of my wife. Like, for real, she's like a little positivity battery that's beaming out positive vibes all the time. And I think everybody should have somebody like that in their life who's just jam-packed full of positivity.
You're a very lucky man. That's all I can say. Greg, I want to thank you very much for coming to the show, for answering the questions. I know some of them are a bit annoying, can be a little bit annoying. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It was fantastic.
Please don't hang up just yet. We're just going to say goodbye to all the listeners. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And all the show notes are, of course, under the description of the episode. So everything Greg mentioned, you can find links to there. And see you guys next time. Thank you. This content was created by the Citizen Web3 Validator. You may support our work by delegating to any of our nodes.